Welcome to Menopause Moguls Podcast, the Elevation Talk series with yours truly, Dr. Joyelle. I am Dr. Joyelle, the Menopause Mogul, board certified OBGYN and business coach for Black women 40 and over. And my mission is to educate, embolden, and empower Black women and other women of color in their journey through health and careers. This is a space for Black women and other women of color to share their compelling trials and tribulations in their health and or in their careers and businesses. This is where we recognize the humanity of Black women and show how Black women continue to elevate despite midlife challenges and changes. So tune in to meet our next amazing guest. Hello, everyone. I am back. Welcome to the Menopause Moguls Podcast, Elevation Talks. I am Dr. Joyelle, and it's been a minute. It has been a minute. So I am back here in my studio / office to share what has been going on over these last few months with me. Those of you who have been following me, those of you who have been listening to the podcast, know that I've been on a bit of a break over the last few months. And so I'm here today with this new episode to talk about it. I have been in a space of trying to figure out what's my post-COVID symptoms versus new symptoms of perimenopause. Yes, y'all, I got new symptoms, y'all. And I will be talking about those new symptoms kind of throughout other episodes also. But so that's what I have been dealing with. And those of you who have been also following me know that I have been dealing with long COVID, what I call it temporary long COVID, since having COVID twice last year. So it has, obviously been a struggle for me. It has been a challenge for me. And I have been open and honest in sharing that on my podcast. And I've talked about it quite a bit on other episodes. So you can go back and listen to those episodes, but I'll share a little bit of it here today. But just coming back to the podcast, trying to figure out, how I want this to go moving forward, right? My Elevation Talks portion of the podcast the goal was to bring on amazing guests, which I have in the past, and also I have more guests coming up. But this is also going to be solo episodes. So today will be a solo episode because I think before, when I was trying to, do this Elevation Talks portion and then do a separate episode, it was just too much for me. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do everything all at once. So those of you who are watching on YouTube, or those of you who are watching or listening on the Apple Podcast, you will be able to hear and or see what we'll be talking about on the podcast. But my goal and intention with each, whether it's a solo episode versus an episode where I do interview amazing Black women, my intention is to elevate your level of thinking, elevate your level of belief, elevate your level of intention when it comes to your sense of self, health and well-being, and you pursuing your dreams. And that dream could be like starting a business, right? So I want all of these episodes, whether it's solo versus me bringing on a guest, to, do that, as well as just show you that other Black women, other women of color are out here doing amazing things, but can also go through challenges, right? And, again, those of you who are new to me will soon realize that your girl been going through some things. And I can potentially cry at some point. Those of you who have been following me, listen to other episodes, like, this girl be crying. So be prepared for that. I don't know about this episode. We'll see. It's very possible. I just like to put that out there. And I used to hide that and like, after the fact, like, oh my God, I was crying. But now I'm like, you know what? I mean, it is what it is. And I think my intention also is to show just vulnerability and show that, as a high achieving Black women, like we have moments, we have times where we just are tired, we are emotional, we are vulnerable, and just to show that, right? Because I think that's how we just learn more about ourselves and also just grow more into ourselves. And, with my struggles, I thank God I don't look like what I've been through. Those of you who are watching on YouTube, it's like, girl, it's been a journey. It's been, your girl has been knocked down, broken down, and being knocked down and broken down. It's hard. It's hard. It doesn't feel good. But through this last, stint of challenges, something always helps me get back up, right? I'm back up here now recording another podcast episode. It's been, been a few months where I haven't recorded anything. And I realized that it's something is getting me back up, right? And yes, it's resilience, definitely part of it. But I think the biggest part or the biggest draw of me to get back up is legacy. And when I thought about that, this episode, I wanted to talk about loss, love, and legacy, and how all of that is part of the process, part of our process, part of our journey through the menopausal transition, part of our journey when we're transitioning into things that are bigger than us, like starting a business, like pivoting into something new in our careers, whatever that thing is. I think loss, love, and legacy is all parts of that journey. So let me just jump into it in regards to what I've been feeling, thinking. Essentially, I felt like my body was betraying me, right? So just to kind of give you a little bit of background for those of you who are new. And again, those of you who are new, welcome. Hello, hello. Thank you for listening to the podcast. And those of you who have been rocking with me since forever, I thank y'all so much. Those of you who've been still listening to the podcast when I have recorded a podcast in a few months, y'all still out here listening. I appreciate y'all. And those of you who are watching on YouTube, welcome. Thank you also for tuning in and subscribing. If you have not subscribed yet, as of yet, please subscribe, as well as on the Apple Podcast. Please subscribe. I truly, truly would appreciate it. So yes, I have been, like I said before, dealing with post-COVID symptoms. I had COVID twice last year and subsequently developed long COVID, which essentially looked like I had some neurological symptoms where I have a head tremor where my head would nod no involuntarily. And that can last for a few minutes, that can last for longer, a few seconds, or shorter, a few seconds. I can get twitches in my arms and legs, just involuntarily jerks in my arms, pain throughout my body, extreme fatigue. And so that has been, kind of the gist of my post-COVID symptoms, in addition to some heart palpitations, in addition to potentially some headaches. So just all kinds of fun things, right? And I've had periods where I've had not much of any of those things. And then there's periods where I can have a lot, right? Over the beginning of the summer, when I stopped recording my podcast, it was just really getting to me, right? Like it was really bothering me that I was, still dealing with these issues, right? And like I said, I felt like, 'cause at one point I was feeling better. I was able to do a little bit more exercise because I was at the point where I couldn't exercise. I could not drive. Like it was a mess, right? So I was able to get back into doing things that I used to do, right? But then I kind of, again, took a turn back to what I was doing before as far as these post-COVID symptoms. And I felt like my body was betraying me. I didn't recognize my body. And I felt like this haze that would come over me. And I just felt like I couldn't do anything, which is why I could not record, podcasts, which is why I also was not, coaching any clients. I just truly just been kind of dealing with, the symptoms that I was experiencing. And again, what my body physically was feeling, what my mind mentally was thinking, it was just unrecognizable to me, right? And I didn't like it. It just, again, it was bothering me. I felt like my body was just my friend. And then she was like, nah, now we're frenemies. Like we're not cooperating. We don't care what you want. we just gonna do what we're gonna do, right? And I just felt like it wouldn't allow me to be great, right? It just wouldn't allow me to be great. So I felt like I was losing who I used to be, like, no energy. I just was not happy, losing what I used to do, exercise. Like I couldn't exercise regularly like I used to. I couldn't play with my kids without becoming breathless, right? Like all of those things. And I essentially was in ebbs and flows of sadness, anger. I was angry. Like I just like, come on, like really, like get it together. And of course, all of that was also met with tears. Like promised y'all in the beginning of the episode, like, your girl be crying. Like I would cry. Like I think I cried almost every day for a few weeks. And my husband be like, okay, what are you crying for today, honey? I love my husband, Raul. Like he has been my rock so much. It's been a journey. But really, just releasing. And then when I do cry, y'all, it really is healthy for me, right? Like, and I think it'd be healthy for a lot of people. Like it just helps you release, right? Release whatever's kind of just weighing heavy on you. It just helps me to release. For me to just cry out and obviously cry out to God. It was a lot of crying out to God and like, God, help me, right? And in the midst of all this, I came to a point where I like to say to myself, like, I'm actually grieving. I am grieving the loss of how I used to be. Which is what I've done before, right? I have talked about how starting my perimenopause journey, I talked about the stages of grief that goes along with that. And I talked about that way back when in the beginning of the podcast. Like you go back to the first few episodes you can find where I talked about the stages of grief when you are entering the menopausal transition. And so my evolution through perimenopause and now through post-COVID entails periods of grief, right? And I know, in my mind in the past that, when you think of grief, you think about grieving the loss of someone, right? Grieving the loss of a loved one, a friend. But we experience grief so more often than that, right? Outside of that. Grieving the loss of a job. Like I remember I had to grieve when I stopped practicing, Like when I was practicing and then subsequently decided to resign and start my business, I just kind of jumped into the business and not really took the time to grieve that I was no longer practicing. I was no longer going in to see my patients. I had to grieve that loss. So we can grieve the loss of losing a partner, whether it is, in death, unfortunately, or in divorce, right? And also grieving the loss of our identity, right? Especially as we're entering these midlife years and just feeling different changes that are happening, whether it's mentally, physically, emotionally, we actually grieve just losing a part of ourselves or losing, things that we used to do or how we think or how we operate. I realized that we have to give ourselves permission to grieve those losses, right? And you're not really, I wasn't really thinking about that, in the midst of it all, as I was just kind of, going through my ebbs and flows of sadness and anger. Like I was just mad, right? just mad. And mad that I was mad, right? Like it was, it's just a vicious cycle sometimes, right? But I realized that I really had to acknowledge that I was grieving and give myself permission to grieve and be okay with that, right? Be okay with, taking a step back from the podcast, taking a step back from my business, just really giving myself time to just grieve, sit with myself, sit with my feelings, sit with my thoughts, and realizing that this is what giving myself permission to do this will allow me to learn, right? Learn more about myself, learn more about how I can just do things differently moving forward as I am, trying to do the things that I need to do in order to feel better. And in doing that, learning that, when I'm losing pieces of myself, to love on myself, right? Love on myself even more. Because again, when in the beginning where, sad and then angry and then sad and, not really giving myself the pass to be sad and angry. Because I don't want to be sad and angry. Who wants that, right? Nobody wants to be angry and sad, like back and forth. Nobody wants to feel like your body is betraying you and you're just, just in this funk, right? So I had to learn to love on myself and just give myself some grace through this whole process. And not only that, lean on God's love for me, right? Ask Him to help me love on myself, give myself permission to love on myself. Because again, when you are just so used to doing what you do, right? And then when that changes, you're like, but wait, why is this changing? I thought I was better. I thought I was good. And God be like, no, we just gonna do something different. We're gonna do something different. So leaning on Him to help me love myself and other people as He loves us, right? Help me to see me as He sees me. Because again, when you're in that place where everything just doesn't feel good, you feel broken, you feel like I said, broken down, and just feel low, right? But He still sees us as this wonderfully creature, right? This creation. He created us to be this amazing person. But when you're feeling like, you're feeling like shit, you don't feel amazing, right? You don't see yourself as amazing. So I have learned to choose to respond to the difficult moments, the challenges, with more compassion and love instead of fear and doubt, right? Fearful that, oh my God, like I'm not going to get back to what I want to do, like record, speak on my podcast and speak to my people and my business. I can't get back to that. Oh, like what if I can't do what I used to do? And that's what I also feared as I was kind of trying to get back initially after having COVID, getting back to my business. I was fearful of when I started coaching clients, I wouldn't be able to bring my full self or have the capacity to coach because of my post-COVID symptoms. So I had a fear of that, right? So I had to learn to just respond differently with the sense of more compassion and love for myself, right? And also remember that these difficult moments, these challenges, and even also the grief through all that, it is temporary. And I've said that, I've called it temporary long COVID because I'm not claiming long. I'm claiming temporary, right? And realizing that, with the symptoms that I'm experiencing, these feelings, the emotions, like I don't have to like stay in this low moment, right? I don't have to stay feeling broken. I don't have to stay there, right? I can get back up, right? So what that looked like for me is stop focusing. I had to stop focusing on what I was losing or what I lost, right? And turn my attention to what I was actually gaining, right? A different perspective of how my life was going, a different way to do things in regards to, again, just getting myself back into just moving my body in regards to exercise and how I thought about myself, how I talk to myself, like all those things that I've talked about in prior episodes. Just the relationship that you have with yourself just makes such a difference when you are going through challenges like midlife changes or any type of illness. Relationship that you have with yourself is so important, that you can be able to deal with those challenges from a place of compassion and love instead of from a place of doubt and fear, right? So with compassion and love, you give yourself grace, right? Don't allow the pressure, for me, the pressure of being the perfect mom, that you have to be available to play with the child, at the drop of a dime and play with them forever like they want you to. Like, nah, I mean, I'm talking about my son in particular because this dude, he is insatiable in regards to just playing in general. It's like he's nonstop, and his energy is like, dude, I can't. I can't. So realizing or explaining to him or, trying to, giving him the explanation of, look, mommy can't do this, and this is why. And feeling okay with that, right? Like, because before I would feel guilty. I would feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not a good mom. Like, all the little lies that we tell ourselves, right? So just not allowing the pressure of being the perfect mom, not allowing the pressure of, just being this businesswoman, like overshadow everything that I do and just give myself grace, right? And also, we always talk about rest, right? In regards to giving ourselves permission to rest. And that is also so important when we are going through the loss of something, right? Because we, again, for me, and I know for a lot of women that whether it's my clients or just women I have encountered, even in the office with patients, we, again, are so ingrained in just doing, going, that we don't give ourselves the time to rest. We don't give ourselves the permission to rest. So being able to do that, again, doing that is leading with compassionate love when you're going through these challenges. Being okay with moving my body at a new pace. Like I mentioned before, I used to be, on it as far as my Peloton, exercising, doing my thing, and accepting that I can't do that right now. And will I be able to get back to what I was doing before? Maybe, and maybe not. And I'm in a place where I'm like, okay with either or. I used to be in a place where I was mad when I was like, why can't I do this anymore? Like, right. Like, so, I'm in a place now. It's like, I'm good either way. I'm going to move. I'm going to do what I do at my own pace and be okay with that. And realize that, there are different seasons in my life, right? There are different seasons, and this is a different season, right? And being okay, being in a space of self-acceptance and self-love. And I think this has then, going through that, right? Going through the loss, and then loving on myself, leaning on the love of God, has then allowed me to now go back to my podcast, go back to working on my business and walk in my purpose, right? So that I can change lives, so that I can make an impact on those that are around me, those are in my orbit, and create my legacy, right? When you think about legacy, legacy is something passed on, and it could take many forms. It could be somebody's faith, your values, assets, reputation. But I really think, the life that you lead and the impact that you have on the world, that is your legacy, right? Whether it be within your family, whether that be within your friend group, a community, nationally, globally, whatever that is your legacy. And in my, journey through these past challenges, of course, I have been in my Bible, just, getting the word, just gaining more knowledge of God. And I came across Proverbs 13, verse 22, and it says, a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. And that spoke to me. And like, God created us to create a legacy. That is why we're here. We are here to leave a legacy, right? Do the things that our hearts desire, that God puts in us, right? Create the life that we want on our own terms, so that we can get closer to that legacy. So with all that, the journey to our legacy is what, from my experience, through all of what I've been through so far, what I have come to realize, that the journey to my legacy involves loss and love, right? And I think, a lot of us don't realize that, don't, kind of pay attention to that. And we can, kind of get in our feelings that essentially when we get in our feelings and just be angry and just be frustrated and just annoyed. Now, not allowing ourselves to, again, just acknowledge the grief that we are feeling from that loss, so we can move forward. Because if we stay in frustration, we stay in annoyance, we stay there and not able to actually be productive in our lives, right? And not be able to truly walk in our purpose if we're always frustrated and always annoyed. And not to say that those things, going to happen. Like, of course, those frustrations, those annoyances, they occur, right? But it's a matter of how we respond to what we're going through as far as the challenges, right? And not only that, respond from a place of compassion, from a place of love, asking God to give, give us the capacity and the ability to love others as well as ourselves, right? As He loves us, so that we can move in a way that shows that we are embracing who we are becoming. We are embracing the process that requires in order for us to get to our legacy. Because at the end of the day, right, your legacy is not about you, right? And I think, for me, it's like, this really is really not about you. It's not about you. It's not about you. It's about those other people, right? The other people that God wants you to serve. Whether it's your platform, whether it's your family, whether it's, your community. That's what it's about. The people you transform. That is your legacy. And like I said before, God wants us to create a legacy. He wants us to create a life that not only affects our children, but our children's children and our children's children's children, right? Like future generations, generations after generation after generation. And being mindful of that as we are going through the losses, loving on ourselves through the losses in order to get to that legacy. And not to say that, those of us who don't have, biological children, that you still have a community, people that you are also here to leave a legacy to, right? So I think that definitely includes all of us, where we are just going through life and going through challenges, which, definitely can put us in a place where it doesn't feel good. And we can feel broken, and they may be feelings where, I just don't want to do this anymore. Like, just give up, right? But if we move in a way where we are coming from a place of love and compassion, for ourselves, and then able to realize that, we have a legacy. We have a legacy to create, right? That allows us to continue to get back up when we fall down. That allows us to restart after feeling broken down. So that's where I am, y'all. That's what I have been kind of just reflecting on and thinking about as I am moving forward. Because, again, legacy is really your why, in regards to the business that you want to create, the dreams that you want to pursue, like, what, your why, like who are the people you want to impact? How do you want to make those people feel? All the people that you want to serve. So that's where I am. So that's all I got for you all today. I want just kind of with all that, my conclusion from this point is, those of you who are listening, those of you who are watching, as Black women, I want you to know that, first of all, you are enough. You are enough to do anything you are being called to do. But I want you to know within that calling, that it will be met with loss, right? It will be met with you losing something. And a lot of times they're going to be losing, parts of yourself, especially as you're going through midlife changes, right? But if you continue to move towards your goals, pursue your dreams from a place of love and compassion, you will be able to get back up or continue on after the challenges that you may be going through, because your legacy is what's going to keep you going, right? So that's what I wanted to share with y'all today. If it's something that something resonated with you, please let me know in the comments on YouTube. Let me know in a review on Apple Podcasts. Please review the podcast so more people will see the podcast. And like I said in the beginning, I will also be having some amazing guests coming up. Again, just to reiterate all the things that we can do if we just be, truly mindful of what we want and be intentional about what we want. But at the same time, choosing a different response when we are going through the challenges that we go through life, whether it, within the menopausal transition, whether it's within transitioning into entrepreneurship, whether it's in pivoting to something different, whatever that challenge is, an illness, whatever that is, being able to choose a different response, and that response being rooted in compassion and love. I think that makes a world of a difference. So, all right, y'all. Until next time, sending love and light to all of you, and I will see y'all next time. All right, y'all. Take care.